My dad was smiling and letting it happen, so I shoved his roommate. "You're hurting my dad. His leg is broken." He grinned. "Oops, I'm a patient, so you can't do anything about it." I wanted to kill him because my dad has head trauma from a car accident and couldn't defend himself. But even with head trauma, he's still nice and smiles at everyone. But looking at his roommate hooked to machines, I let him off the hook and just held my dad's hand, telling myself it wouldn't happen again. Moments later, I left to use the... I was visiting my dad in the hospital when I saw...
Something is coming in 3 days.
I was visiting my dad in the hospital when I saw his hospital roommate poking his broken leg and laughing. My dad was smiling and letting it happen, so I shoved his roommate. "You're hurting my dad. His leg is broken." He grinned. "Oops, I'm a patient, so you can't do anything about it." I wanted to kill him because my dad has head trauma from a car accident and couldn't defend himself. But even with head trauma, he's still nice and smiles at everyone. But looking at his roommate hooked to machines, I let him off the hook and just held my dad's hand, telling myself it wouldn't happen again. Moments later, I left to use the bathroom real quick. But when I was walking back to the room, I heard my dad sobbing and ran in immediately. I saw the roommate digging his thumb into the cast and poking at the break in my dad's leg, watching him cry and holding the call button far away so my dad couldn't reach it while smiling and laughing diabolically. I felt my cheeks clench. I pushed him, grabbed the call button, and pressed it because I needed to get help. Immediately, a nurse came in. I pointed. "He keeps hurting my dad's broken leg. My dad can't even defend himself." The nurse looked at my dad, but he was smiling again. "He's heavily sedated. He can't even feel it." And she left. I couldn't believe it. The roommate leaned back. "I told you, you can't do anything about it." By the end of the day, the leg was swollen and gray. I screamed for help until a doctor finally cut the cast open. He stared at it for a long second. The bone shattered. "He's never going to walk on this leg again. I'm sorry." My dad just smiled at him. No idea what he'd lost, and my heart broke. I looked at the roommate sleeping in the next bed, and I knew exactly what I had to do. The next morning, I waited by my dad's bed. The roommate woke up, looked over, and grinned. He reached across to my dad's leg one more time. "Let's see if I can make him cry harder this time." I grabbed his wrist right before he could touch it. He laughed. "You can't do anything about it, remember?" But I pulled his blanket back, wrapped my hand around his leg, and twisted until I heard it pop. He screamed so loud the whole floor heard it. The nurse came running in. "What happened?" I let go and looked right at her. "Oh, relax. He's heavily sedated. He can't feel a thing. I broke him the same way he broke my dad." Oops. I was visiting my dad in the hospital when I saw him. My little brother and I were wrestling on the couch when I accidentally flipped him too hard, and he slammed straight onto the floor. He lay on the floor screaming, holding his arm, a red bruise already forming near his elbow. I was supposed to be watching him, and knew I was screwed, because my mom swore if she caught us wrestling again, she'd take everything I owned and beat my ah. My brother had tears running down his face as I checked the clock. She'd be home any minute, and I needed to fix this quickly. He screamed, "I'm telling Mom you pushed me. This is your fault. You wanted to wrestle again." I slapped my hand over his mouth. "Stop crying. If you stop, I'll give you my PS5, the one I saved 2 summers for." He went still. "For real?" "Yes." But the bruise was darkening fast, purple creeping across his elbow, and I knew my mom would notice it the second she walked in. So I looked it up on ChatGPT, and every result said, "Go to the ER immediately." My hand started shaking. "No way, I'm telling," he said. Mom's text lit up my screen. "She's almost home." "No, take my room too. Just stay quiet, I swear." So I went on Reddit, and some thread swore toothpaste and raw potato pulled a bruise out. So I packed his arm in paste and mummified it in a sock, but it bloated up yellow and lumpy, looking 10 times more broken than before. Then Mom's car beeped in the driveway. "Say nothing, and I'll buy you a Switch too," I begged, and the doorknob started to turn. My mom froze in the doorway, looking at the two of us, then at the lumpy yellow sock swallowing my brother's arm. "What happened?" My brother's lip trembled, but he didn't say a word. She took one look at the couch cushions on the floor, and her face went hard. "Were you two wrestling again?" I took a deep breath as she started unwrapping the sock, bracing like she'd find a bone sticking out. But underneath the paste was a bruise the size of a quarter, already fading. She turned to me slowly. "You did all of this over a small bruise? I'm taking your phone, your PS5, everything." I watched her walk straight to my room, grabbing my stuff, when my brother leaned over and whispered, "I didn't snitch, so I still get your room, your PS5, and you're buying me a Switch." My little brother and I was visiting my dad in the hospital when I woke up on my best friend's couch, and his cat looked me dead in the eyes and said, "Good morning." The room was tilting, and when I tried to remember last night, I couldn't think of anything that had happened. I stumbled into the kitchen, and my best friend William was waiting with a baking pan, one brownie left in it. "Dude, you ate all my brownies last night, the ones for my party." I grabbed the counter to stop myself from falling, because this explained everything. "What kind of brownies, William? What the hell did I eat?" He looked at me for a long second and walked out without saying anything. I splashed cold water on my my face and pinched my arm to try and snap myself out of it. But when I looked up, the cat put his paw on my hand. "You should probably sit down, man." I backed out of the kitchen and tore through the apartment for a wrapper, a box, anything that said what was in those brownies. But when I walked into the living room, I saw 3 versions of myself, all smiling and waving at me. "Nice to finally meet you, dude." I shook my head, trying to force myself to see straight. And when I opened my eyes again, the room was empty. "William, where the hell are you, bro?" I heard a noise in the hallway, so I ran out and grabbed him by the shoulders. "Dude, what was in those brownies? Just tell me." Before he could respond, I watched his blue hoodie turn to red, then blue again. So I grabbed my keys and dialed poison control with shaking thumbs. "I ate something last night. I don't know what it was, and I'm seeing things." William dove across the room and slapped the phone out of my hand. "Chill. They were regular brownies." He stood over me with both hands up, breathing hard. "You never ate anything bad. I just saw that you ate my entire batch of brownies, so I tricked you into believing that you were tripping out. You're so gullible, dude." He reached behind the couch and pulled out a Bluetooth speaker. "The cat never spoke to you. It just seemed that way." He pointed to the corner where there were 3 blow-up balloon versions of myself. I looked at the balloons, then at the cat, then walked back to the kitchen, picked the last brownie out of the pan, and ate it, looking him dead in the eyes. Worth it. I woke up. My grandma was wobbling on a kitchen chair, reaching for the top shelf, so I grabbed her waist. "You're too old for this. Let me do it for you." She swatted my hands away. "I may be a little older than you, but I still got it." I just laughed it off. She jumped down and landed in a squat. "I'm gonna prove it." I didn't know what she was talking about, but the next day she pulled up outside my house, honking till I came out. She rolled the window down and said, "I'm gonna show you what us grandmas are capable of." I got in the car and asked, "Grandma, where are we going? Is it your knitting club or something?" She responded by putting on sunglasses and doing 130 in a 50 lane. "You'll see." When we parked at a small airfield, I turned to her completely confused. "Grandma, why are we at an airport?" But she was already getting out of the car and cartwheeling through the entrance. "Just follow me, son." Inside, a guy at the desk lit up when he saw her. "Rita, it's been so long since we last saw each other." He kissed her hand and she pointed a finger at me. "He thinks I'm too old to do anything cool anymore." The man looked at me and laughed. "Then you've got another thing coming." He handed her a parachute backpack and she stepped into it like she'd done it 1,000 times, snapping every buckle without looking. I smiled nervously. Gran, what are we doing?" She tossed a jumpsuit at my chest. "We're going skydiving." My heart started pounding and I grabbed her arm. "This is insane, Gran. You're 80 years old. Let me drive you home." She shook me off and walked to the plane. I climbed in after her, and I watched the houses become tiny dots in the distance as we shot up 18,000 feet into the sky. She checked my straps for me, calm as anything, while I gripped the bench till my knuckles ached. When we got to the top, the instructor hauled the door open, and freezing wind tore through the cabin. I locked up in the doorway, shaking my head. "Grandma, I really can't do this." She pulled her goggles down and clipped my strap. "You're young, let me do it for you." She tipped backward out of the plane, arms wide, whooping like a teenager. I dove out after her, and by the time I got near to her, she was way below me, flat and steady and grinning into the wind, while I cartwheeled through the sky screaming her name. When we landed, I was a sweaty mess, but my grandma landed in a squat and smiled. "Told you I was gonna prove it." My grandma was wobbly. Derek bought $500 AI glasses and immediately trusted them more than God. We were supposed to be driving to brunch, 12 minutes away. 1 left turn, 1 highway exit, and a parking lot with bottomless mimosas. I had the route open on my phone before he even backed out of the driveway. "Derek, use Google Maps." He tapped the side of the frames. "These have military-grade navigation. You bought them from a podcast ad." In the reflection of his lens, I could see the route glowing blue across his right eye. It pointed us toward the highway. That part seemed fine. It stopped being fine when the glasses told him to exit before the highway and cut through a neighborhood. Then a gravel path behind a rec center that I am almost positive was for joggers. "Must be a shortcut," he beamed. A woman walking a dog jumped sideways into the grass as we rolled past at 7 miles an hour. The path dumped us into a public park with a fountain, pavilion, children, one man eating a sandwich on a bench who didn't even bother to look up. "Derek, there are children. It's recalculating." The glasses were not recalculating. They were politely telling him to continue straight through a family reunion. We bumped over a curb back onto an actual road, and Derek turned to me with both hands loose on the wheel. "See? Military grade." I had my hand on the door handle. Then the glasses chimed. "Turn right in 200 feet. There was no road to the right. There was a boat ramp." I said, "Derek, what are you doing?" He slowed down, squinted through the glasses, and said, "It might be a service road. For boats?" The glasses chimed again. "Continue to destination." Derek whispered, "Trust the glasses." The front tires rolled over the wet concrete. The hood dipped. The engine made a sound like a blender full of coins, and the car slid nose first into the lake. For 1 second, neither of us moved. Then the glasses chimed. "You have arrived at your destination." Derek took them off slowly, looked at the glasses, looked at the lake, looked at me. I said, "How's brunch?" A soggy receipt floated up from the cup holder. $500. Derek watched it drift past the dashboard and said, "I think I can still return them." The glasses chimed one last time. Route saved. Derek bought $500 I was crying to the doctor, telling him I couldn't pay for my wife's cancer treatment because I had no money. But the doctor cut me off. "Sir, the treatment is already paid for. Your son paid all $25,000. I stared in shock. That can't be true. He's only 16, but the doctor confirmed it. I drove straight home and asked him, "How did you pay for your mom's treatment?" He just shrugged. "I just really love mom." I knew he was hiding something. 16-year-olds don't get $25,000 for doing anything good. Then that night I heard the front door click shut at 2 a.m. My son was sneaking out. I immediately got in my car and followed him to find out where he was going, keeping my headlights off, all the way to an empty lot behind the warehouses. There was a crowd of people, music, cars everywhere, and stacks of cash changing hands. My son got into a beat-up car at the starting line. I realized this was illegal street racing. My heart broke because my 16-year-old was risking his life for his mom. I shoved through the crowd to drag him out the car before something bad happened, but the flags went down and the race started. He launched off the line and was weaving through cars, taking turns nobody should survive, lapping grown men who'd been racing for years. I froze. He crossed the line first, and the crowd went insane. Someone handed him a fat roll of cash. I heard someone yell, "He hasn't lost yet. This kid is insane." My eyes watered. My son had a real gift, and I had to do something about it. I had to get him off those streets, so I started working overnight shifts at a warehouse. With that money, I drove down to the local karting track and signed him up for their racing program. When my son got home, I told him, "Your mom's old co-worker sponsors young drivers. She pulled a favor and got you a spot." He stared at me suspiciously. "This is so random." "Why?" I shrugged. "Mom just really loves you." He smiled. And years later, my wife made a full recovery from the treatment, and my son became a professional racer. My son and I both kept secrets from each other because we both really love mom. I was crying to the doctor. We sat down at the table when my brother-in-law slapped me on the shoulder and pointed up at the Ghost Wing Challenge sign. "All right, you and me. All 12 with no milk and loser buys dinner for a month. Milk's for babies anyway." I looked up and read the rules under the little skulls. Finish all 12, no milk, no water, no tapping out. The waitress slowed down as she passed and tapped that last line. "Everybody says yes to this one, sweetie. And then they're begging me for milk. I'm not even allowed to bring them." He just waved her off and ordered us 2 platters. "No offense, man, but I've watched you sweat over a mild taco, so honestly, this is gonna be the easiest dinner I ever won." The plates came out steaming, and he tore into his first wing like he was making a point. By the third one, his forehead was shiny, and he was talking way faster than before. "See, this isn't even heat. It's just flavor, and people never get that." I had my head down working through mine with my eyes watering, and he loved every second of it. I mean, look at him. He's basically crying already. I told you he'd fold. He grabbed my sister by the sleeve and pulled her over. "Babe, come on, back me up here. Does he honestly look like he's gonna finish that?" She leaned in and looked at both plates before pulling her arm back. "Honey, his plate's almost empty, and yours isn't." His eye twitched, and he let go of her. By the next wing, he was fanning his mouth and waving the waitress over. "Milk. I need milk. Just bring me a milk." She pointed at the sign without slowing down. "Rules are rules, hun." His face was red and dripping, and his hands had started to shake. He spun around to the next table, snatched the little carton off the kid's tray, and chugged it right there in front of everyone. The kid stared up at him. "Mom, the spicy man took my milk." The whole place turned to watch a grown man hunched over a stolen carton of milk. I swallowed my last wing and wiped my hands before sliding the check across to him. Then I slapped him on the shoulder. "Drink up. Milk's for babies, right?" We sat down at the table. My best friend shone his flashlight into my living room from his house across the road. In Morse code, Mike spelled, "Join the Minecraft game." We joined at the same time, and it was our 100th time trying to destroy the Ender Dragon. After 2 hours, the dragon was on half a heart, and I got ready to taste victory. But suddenly the door slammed open, and my mom plugged out the monitor. Summer's over, and school starts on Monday. No more phones or gaming after 6 p.m. But I knew I needed to find a way around it because I promised Mike we'd find a way to defeat it. I ran back to my room, and Mike started flashing his torch again. This time he spelled out, "We need to come up with a plan to beat the Ender Dragon." I responded, "I'm down for anything." He flashed, "Get a pen and paper too. Write down what I say." I wrote down every word of his plan with a huge grin on my face because it was so insane, I didn't even know if it could work. And at 4 a.m. the next morning, I walked down to the kitchen to get ready to follow through. I opened the cabinet no one touched and took out the moldiest bread I could find. When no one was looking, I immediately ate every slice, and I hoped Mike was following his side of the plan too, so we could defeat the Ender Dragon. By the time my mom found me, I was shaking over the toilet for real, and I grabbed her sleeve. "Bring me to St. Mary's Hospital, please." They wheeled me onto the children's ward, and right there in the bed was Mike. We both smirked at each other because the plan worked perfectly, and it was finally time to defeat the Ender Dragon. The second the nurse left, Mike slid his phone from under the blanket, and I pulled out mine. We loaded the world, dropped into the end side by side, and after just an hour, the dragon dropped dead. The whole ward was dead silent, so Mike aimed his phone torch at the wall and flashed in Morse code, "We did it." I flashed back, "So worth it." My best friend showed. The school bus swerved so hard it threw me into the window. I jumped up and saw the dumbest kid in our school had both hands locked on the steering wheel, screaming at the old bus driver. "Give it to me. You always get to drive. It's my turn." The driver grabbed Dean's sleeve, his voice cracking. "Son, please, you're gonna kill us all." Two jocks charged the front and wrapped him up around the chest, but that dumb ba was somehow stronger than them both. He shrugged them off like they were nothing and stamped on the gas. My mom took my Xbox. "I haven't played GTA in 3 days," he said, whipping us around a corner while we all screamed. "I need to dopamine max or I'm gonna lose my mind." And up ahead, a wall of traffic filled the windshield. "I'm gonna drive straight through." I crawled up the aisle, grabbed the back of his seat, and leaned into his ear. "Bro, you're about to fail the GTA mission." His hands twitched on the wheel. "Checkpoint's right there. Pull over, or you lose all your progress. Everything, gone." I was using his own logic against him. He gasped, "Dude, you're right." He slammed the brake with both feet, and the bus shrieked to a halt so close to a crossing minivan I could see the driver's face. Somebody pressed a phone into his hands, and he melted into the seat, thumbs already racing across a driving game. The old driver climbed back behind the wheel, hands shaking. Dean's eyes never left the screen. "Your turn, old man." The school bus swerved so hard it threw me into the window. I jumped up and saw the dumbest kid in our school had both hands locked on the steering wheel, screaming at the old bus driver. "Give it to me.